Good morning, my friends. If you're new here, I'm Brett. This is Adventure Otaku. I've been working in the outdoor industry for 20 plus years as a guide and an instructor, and a lot of what I do is help people get outdoors. With that in mind, let's talk about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Let's go. Okay, the beauty of Kilimanjaro is the accessibility. 40 to 50,000 people do it a year. You don't need technical skills for it. You need some endurance and some gumption. You don't even need to own a ton of gear like I do, because you can rent just about everything you need. It's from the United States, from North America. It's a lot of plane flights. It's a long way, but it's completely accessible. If you're unfamiliar with Kilimanjaro, it is the highest peak on the continent of Africa. It is one of the 7 summits. The 7 summits are the highest peak on each of the 7 continents, but it starts that process of climbing the 7 summits because a number of them are attainable and you can use them and build on those skills. So I'm not suggesting anyone who's new to the outdoors climb Mount Everest, but Kilimanjaro is doable. Elbrus in Europe is doable. So keep those in mind, as it's a good progression. I decided for this video to have a conversation with a good friend of mine, a woman named Beth Hansen. Beth is a certified personal trainer. She also has an amazing outdoor adventure resume. She and I paddled in Alaska together. She has also ridden her bike cross country. She has also done a Yukon canoe trip. So let's talk to Beth for some quick tips on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Hey, thanks for joining me, Beth.
Hey.
I've already talked about our history together. I've already talked about your amazing adventure resume. Do you feel like you have an amazing adventure resume?
No.
No, you don't.
Because it's not done.
Well, that's besides the point, right? And
I'm happy to recognize my privilege.
Yeah.
But, I mean, no, not really. I don't think anybody who is further along the path ever feels like they're far enough along the path.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I, too, am very lucky to do the things that I do, both for fun and for work, but yeah.
Yeah, do you feel like you've got a cool adventure resume?
No, I don't. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I totally don't.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, and part of that is, like, I know a lot of people, particularly through Knowles, who have done way cooler stuff and way more frequently than me, right? But yeah.
No matter how much money you make, there will still be Jeff Bezos.
That's a good point. Yeah. You've just compared to every Knowles instructor I know to Jeff Bezos.
That's kind of how it feels. Like it's unobtainable, the cool shit that the people, especially in your circle, have done. Yeah,
it's true. It's true. Okay, so the first thing that I want to ask is for people, this is for people who are thinking about doing Kilimanjaro or who are booked to do a Kilimanjaro trip. Tell me about the route you did and why you chose it.
Okay, well, this is complicated by the fact that I did not choose the route.
Okay.
So I did this with a charity partner, the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, and we did it as a team that did a bunch of fundraising beforehand. Think of like a marathon where people say like, I'm going to run a marathon for cancer. I did the same thing, just adventure edition.
Gotcha.
Okay? So knowing that, the route that was chosen for me is the Lemosho route. And there's a whole bunch of like delineations between like the fast ones and the slow ones.
Mm-hmm.
The Lemosho is a slow one.
Okay.
But the reason why is because the success rate is so much higher when there's an extra day or two to acclimate.
Okay, and so, yeah, I was about to say, when you are referring to the fast one and the slow one, it's how long the route takes, not the people on the route.
And it's all kind of jumbled up in my brain. Like I can't, because I was being guided, like I can't necessarily conjure a map in my head. And so like the camps all overlap somehow. There's very clear graphics online. But I took a long time to do it.
You weren't doing any navigation. You were just like, they were like, walk that way.
Brett, when I tell you that this was like the 4 seasons of camping, like having a hot lunch is like a nice treat, right? every single day with like multiple courses. Like there was soup at every single lunch, every single dinner. There were sandwiches, there were juice boxes, there were candy bars,
whatever you wanted. And so but the actual guiding company you did this with was Embark, right? Or Embark Adventures or something. I went to their website and it looks pretty incredible. And
I do shit all over the world.
Yeah.
I would do it again.
And I got to tell you, like, looking at it, I was like, for what you get, it's not, I think it was like $3,800 or something, like not including airfare. I was like, that's not horrible for what you get. But that's a whole other ball of wax. How many days of hiking up? How many days of hiking down?
Okay, so I had to pull up the sheet to actually remember this, but it is 9 days to summit night.
Okay.
Because you leave at like 11 p.m. and then you hike into the morning. And then you spend one more night at a camp that is not the camp that you started at on summit night, which is a different story that we can talk about later.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being 11 days total. So 9 days up, 2 days.
So they are, once you've summited, they're like down, 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 down. Let's get out of here.
And it is very, like, we reached the goal. We did it. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Okay. And that makes sense. As someone who's like, I started my outdoor career, what I call is like light mountaineering or like general mountaineering, not like technical mountaineering, always keeping in the back of my mind, this is a round trip. You don't have to get to the summit, but you got to get down. So and that makes sense. I want to talk about the gear that you brought. You have the option, of course, of renting from them. You already have a big selection of gear as someone that does this sort of stuff. I've looked at their gear list. So I do have one specific question. I saw something on the gear list that cracked me up that I want to ask about. But what did you rent? What did you bring?
Okay. My bag didn't show up on time.
Of course not.
So I rented like my entire duffel bag with like everything that I wanted to bring, because you're right, I do have a lot of gear and I wanted them to tell me like, hey, this is going to work. This is going to work. So like, as long as I met my luggage requirement, I just packed it.
Okay.
And so I had an entire duffel bag with like, I don't know, 6 pair of long underwear in varying weights. And like, everything essentially but my boots was in this duffel bag. And it was in Amsterdam for 3 days.
Okay.
And they hauled it up the mountain for me and gave it to me.
Rock and roll.
It was crazy.
And so you did you did a repack 3 days up the mountain.
But they had to get it up and down. And so my repack was like, I'm just keeping everything in this bag.
Okay.
So, like, there wasn't anything that I could have wanted except for one thing.
Which was?
I forgot my pea cloth.
Oh. And this is a whole other video. I have another person that I'm scheduled to do this kind of chat with, a woman who was an Outward Bound employee who also worked with me at REI Outdoor School. We're going to do a whole talk about going to the bathroom in the woods and dealing with menstruation in the woods and stuff like that. So that's a whole other thing.
It's a whole thing.
So no pea cloth.
No pea cloth, which is like, it's fine. Like, that's how I used to do it, but I've gotten spoiled with pea cloth.
Right. But I would also imagine they were lugging some sort of toilet for you people. So
there was like a boat toilet in camp. And at lunch. They set up the toilet at lunch.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the thing that I saw on the list that cracked me up, bring 8 days worth of underwear.
Oh.
I do 30-day trips with I don't bring 8 days of underwear.
So full disclosure, I'm not a big underwear guy. I don't really believe in them a whole bunch. Sorry. Also, I'm wearing long underwear 99% of the time.
Yeah, if I'm wearing, it blows my mind that there are people that wear long underwear and wear underwear under their long underwear. Your long underwear is your underwear.
It's your underwear.
But a lot of people, I was amazed to learn that a lot of people actually wear underwear under their long underwear. Makes my brain ache.
Right now, there are people that are watching this video and they're completely skeeved out by us. And that's fine.
Yeah, I can live with that, yeah.
It's just more opportunities for chafing.
So you did not bring 8 days worth of underwear?
No.
Okay.
God.
Yeah. No. When I do a 30-day paddling trip, I bring 2 pairs of base layer bottoms and 2 pairs of base layer tops, and that's a month. And that can blow someone's mind. So I wanted to ask about that.
I would have brought 2 pair of underwear. I would have brought 2 different cuts of underwear.
Okay. Yeah. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything else on the underwear. I don't think that you have any of this gear that you brought that you didn't need. or gear that you needed that you didn't bring besides the pea cloth?
I mean, if I can be totally honest, like as long as
it fit in the bag, you brought a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And like they say that it needs to be under 35 pounds because, and I'll make sure to include some pictures so that folks can see, but the porters are literally carrying this stuff on their head.
Yeah.
And they're running past you all day long. And so like, it's a little complicated to say like, bring whatever you want, but if it's under 35 pounds, you're good to go.
You're bringing it. Yeah. Nothing.
Like I brought two books, if that kind of illustrates it.
I probably would have brought one, but yeah. And there's nothing you wish you had?
Oh, I did cheap out and buy a, off of like Sierra Trading Post, like a really cheapy bladder because I didn't want to haul my bladder. Like I knew it was going to get broken.
Yeah.
And instead what happened is it broke before I even could use it maybe 2 times.
Yeah. And that's, that's a standard for me with people when I'm helping them outfit is like, no, buy a real bladder. Yeah. Don't. Yeah. Okay.
Lesson learned. Yeah. I should have just brought mine and then I'd have a new bladder here.
Yeah. Okay. You're a highly credentialed personal trainer.
Sure.
What can you rattle off credentials for me real quick, just so it sounds official?
I can tell you that there is no regulation in this country for fitness professionals.
Okay.
And I've dedicated my personal career. No one's going to know the certifying bodies unless they're in the fitness field.
But you have
I've dedicated my life to it.
But you have a bunch of letters after your name. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But what you're saying is they're essentially meaningless.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your training like? I know you hired a trainer. I'd like to know why a personal trainer would hire a personal trainer.
Because coaches need coaches, and good coaches know that. You're outsourcing a lot of things when you hire a coach, and a lot of people think first like accountability, right? Like you're paying a meaningful amount of money to you to make sure that you're going to do something, right? You're also outsourcing the expertise. So an outside set of eyes, whereas I can't see the forest through the trees. Like I know that I've got these things, but I'm also a human that only wants to do the things that they want to do. Like I don't want to eat my vegetables when it comes to fitness, right? So I hired Kim with AssureFit Coaching. She's remote. She's in the same professional body that I am. And it was an absolutely phenomenal experience.
And is this kind of adventure, is it something that she specializes in, or can it be any coach as long as they're a good credentialed coach?
I would say because she does cool shit outside, she had a whole lot more knowledge. Yeah. Like it was just easier. Like she likes to run, she likes to ride bikes,
right?
She likes to do cool shit in the woods. And so like it wasn't like you're just saving yourself the time of having to explain it to somebody.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't have hired somebody that didn't understand how or why somebody would go do a hike like this.
Yeah.
Like you could hire anybody because at the end of the day, like your body is making these shapes. It needs to make these shapes consistently, load versus capacity, blah, 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 blah. But she understood mentally what it was going to require.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
And part of that for me is I talk a lot about, your kayaking coach has all of these certifications, but ask them about the really big trip they did. Because there's a very big difference between rolling in a pool and rolling in Alaska. There's a very big difference between, packing a boat for 2 days and packing a boat for a month if you've never done that, right? And the usability of strokes and things like that is, I do tend to look past credentials, which irks a lot of people. But I feel like that there's that skill set that you pick up doing these things that you don't get at a certifying body.
Well, and it's a human first thing, right? Like you've got to connect with the human in front of you. And like, I still work with Kim. I'll still work with Kim until I no longer have a problem that she's able to help me solve.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the next coach.
Okay. So with that training and your level of experience, how much of a physical challenge was this? Keep in mind for a human who may not have the adventure resume that you have. How hard was this?
We use something called rating of perceived exertion. Just to develop a common language amongst coaches, amongst clients and coaches, all the people, called RPE. It goes from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being me and you right now.
Yep.
10 being running for your life from a bear. You can't sustain it. It's absolutely an all-out effort. This did not approach a level 10.
Okay.
But it did get towards a 9.
Okay.
It got towards a 9 specifically, and anybody who's done Kilimanjaro will tell you, like, it's summit night.
Yeah.
It's really, really long. And luck of the draw had it so that it was really, really windy. And in the back of my mind, the things that I'm weighing are, I'm not going to summit and end up with an overuse injury. I would rather come down the mountain and not summit. It's just not worth it to me.
Yep.
Also in the back of my mind is, I've been colder. I've been more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I know that I can keep going. I know that it is safe to keep going. And so the physical aspect of it was influenced by the fact that, like, that muscle of, like, being uncomfortable was fairly practiced for me.
Yeah. And
I knew I was going to be okay.
And I would say both of us have a fairly high tolerance for that sort of adversity, based on the things that we've done. I've lived, I tell people this all the time, I've lived a fair portion of my life damp and cold,
yes,
which a lot of people can't handle. And that's just sort of life kayaking in cold, wet places. That's what it becomes.
My feet did not approach the level of cold that we had together in Alaska. Nowhere close.
Yeah.
Nowhere close. Like, sitting in the boat with my feet outstretched, like, my feet were cold at night. But actually, this is a gear point. My bag is down, and it had clearly lost some fill.
Was it the bag you used in Alaska? Okay, that bag is pretty old. It's time to replace that. It was a great bag.
I love that bag.
I've got a bag like that too. But I know that bag. I'm not going to say it by name, but I know exactly what bag it is.
It had lost some.
Yeah.
It was
so you were cold?
Even with a liner.
Yeah. Even with a liner. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put it on the wall like my paddle.
Your paddle.
Yeah. Two last questions. Let's talk about altitude. So clearly on summit night, it was part of the equation of the 9. How was it rest of the trip? Did you feel it day one? What altitude do you start at?
The first camp is at 7,800
feet.
Yep.
Okay.
Feet. And then the summit is 19,341.
Okay. So 7,800 feet, that's higher than Denver. Yeah. Okay. And that's where you start.
And you don't feel it on the first night, or at least I didn't. I was also on 125 milligrams of Diamox. Okay. Every day started how many days before? Do you remember? 2 or 3? Like a day or 2. Okay. Yeah. I didn't start when I should have. Oh, you should have started earlier. Yeah. Okay. So altitude is something to be taken into account. You didn't use one of those altitude training things. Mm-mm. No. Okay. No, I did, and Kim did a really good job of assigning me like CO2 deprivation exercises. So, like, imagine you're running, you take a big inhale, exhale, how far can you get without needing to take another breath? Oh, I like that. And we can get into all of the science, but it's the buildup of CO2 that causes you to want to breathe. Right? Yeah. And so if you can learn to tolerate that, or maybe I should say what's more accurate to say is, the more that you can deal with a higher level of CO2, the better your body is able to tolerate stress. Cool. Okay. She assigned a lot of that. I was not very compliant with it. It's really uncomfortable. And I kind of going back to me being comfortable, being uncomfortable, I really was uncomfortable with how uncomfortable that was. Yeah, which it says a lot. Yeah. It's very hard. Yeah. It feels really scary. You didn't have any rain or anything like that? Oh my God, yes, we had rain. Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, so rain gear is key. Yeah, the one piece of gear that they said, like, you've got to have it, and I had never in my life had an occasion where I wanted it, but I can see why it made sense, was a poncho.
Oh yeah, I'm not a poncho guy.
I'm not either. And it made so much sense. And the reason why is because when it would rain, like I've certainly been in like sustained, I don't know, it made it easier if weight were not something that I was thinking about on a backpacking trip, I'd pack a poncho next time. It was easy. It made it like I was warmer underneath. I liked it.
Cool. And I will ask one more gear question. People like gear questions. You had like a 20-liter backpack was the pack you carried. What do you remember what was in it?
Ooh, yeah, what was in my day bag? In my day bag, I carried a ton of scratch hydration powder mixes.
Okay.
And whatever like snacks I wanted for that day. Gaiters, rain pants, rain jacket, poncho, and that's it.
Okay. Did you listen to music or no?
No.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Last question. Next steps. What's next on the agenda?
I don't know. My business is moving at the beginning of the year, so that's first.
Yes.
First and foremost.
And an adventure of its own kind.
Once that is done, I've got some big ideas about running right now.
Okay.
And seeing kind of how far I want to go. I've never done a marathon before, but that seems...
Man, everyone around me is doing marathons for the first time, and it's scaring the heck out of me.
Why?
Because I'm going to be like, oh, I should do it too, and I so should not do it.
I mean, have you done a half?
No.
Oh, well, if you do a half, you can do a full. Just do a half.
Yeah. Yeah, but by that logic, I can do like a 5K. So if I can do a 5K, I can do a 10K. If I can do a 10K, I can do a marathon.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the same thing.
This is a topic for another day. Are you doing the Presidential Traverse with me in the spring?
I would love to.
Okay.
I hear you. Just planting a seed.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Beth.
Absolutely.
It was great chatting with you.
Always.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, there you have it. Tips for climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. A completely attainable goal if you're into the adventure space or want to get started in the adventure space. That is a great way to go. You can train by doing hiking with a pack, hiking with weights, running, things like that, but totally attainable. The altitude, in my opinion, is really the biggest issue, and I would love to do it. I don't do great at altitude, but I'm thinking about giving it a shot. If you're new here, I have lots of resources for people new to the outdoors. On Coffee, which you can follow links down below to get to Coffee, there are gear lists and float plans and packing lists and food planning sheets, and all that stuff is there for you. I am available. If you have questions, you can email me, brett@adventureotaku.com. I offer free 30-minute discovery calls. Beyond 30 minutes, I do start charging, but we can do a lot in 30 minutes. So if you're like, I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to do this thing, I'm here to help you. That's my job. Do me a favor, hit like and hit subscribe down below. That would help me out a lot. Otherwise, I'll see you outside.